I was a broke fitness coach for 3 years, and that's how I built my brand. And I teach personal branding on my course and education side because everyone has a personal brand, whether you like it or not. It's how people remember you when you leave the room. It's what they think about later when they think about you. I just early adopted social media when it was weird and nobody got it. Figured out Facebook ads early. So back when I was a broke fitness coach, I was trying to make extra money. It was like making a few grand a month, hosting group fitness classes, running challenges on Facebook groups. And I was like, how can I monetize? I had small businesses saying, hey, I saw your Facebook ad. How do I do that? Can you tell me how to do Facebook ads? This is back when we were getting like 13 cents a lead. I started doing consulting and then done for you ads for local small businesses because I just figured it out back then and no one knew anything about it. People were asking me how I built my brand, how I built a following on social media. And because I had been posting 2 to 3 times a day for 3 years as a broke fitness coach, people saw me as like a social media expert, as a personal brand expert.
Today, I'm sitting down with Jamie King, who's done over $3 million in revenue with her coaching business and social media management. She's going to give some secrets today about how you can scale your business, how to do social media and everything else in between. So how you doing?
I'm so excited to be here, Cam. Thanks you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited we connected because I'm also in the social media space. So I'm going to see if I can learn some stuff.
And I just love to see young people in our town, especially doing what you're doing. I feel like there's such an opportunity to like grow a business, especially in a network and a community in a city like Louisville. And I just think you're killing it.
Thank you. Yeah. Louisville's such a bigger market than people think. Because everyone's always like, when I had a lighting company in the film industry, people were like, you had that in Louisville? Like
exactly.
There's movies here. And I'm like, yeah, no, there's like a lot of
actually our film is like growing.
Yeah. Film,
like a ton
the
here.
Film incentive is insane here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's getting on par with Georgia. If you don't know what Georgia is like.
Yep. Atlanta. Yep.
Yeah. It's like peak. So it's a whole other life I've lived and it goes big. Well, but I'm really curious. So you scaled a lot in the coaching space. People knew you as a Slate coach. They knew you as having these courses. Walk me through some of those revenue figures, how you grew it to that point and what it kind of took to like maintain that.
Yeah. So when I first started, actually I make the joke that I was a broke fitness coach for 3 years, and that's how I built my brand. And I teach personal branding on my course and education side because everyone has a personal brand, whether you like it or not, or whether you're being intentional about building a brand or not. Everyone has a brand. It's how people remember you when you leave the room. It's what they think about later when they think about you. And I kind of got a head start on social media. I always say I'm an old OG influencer. Like I was an old grandma with the square Instagram posts, writing long captions with one photo. And in 2013, it was weird to post a selfie. Like I think I even lost friends. Like one of my friends said, go post another selfie, get 30 likes and feel good about yourself for the day. And I was like, okay, time to move out of this neighborhood and move on to bigger things. But I just early adopted social media when it was weird and nobody got it. Figured out Facebook ads early. So back when I was a broke fitness coach, I was trying to make extra money, right? It was like making a few grand a month, hosting group fitness classes, running challenges on Facebook groups. And I was like, how can I monetize? I had small businesses saying, hey, I saw your Facebook ad. How do I do that? Can you tell me how to do Facebook ads? This is back when we were getting like 13 cents a lead. Like OG Facebook first, in the early 2010s, it was crazy. So I started doing consulting and then done for you ads for local small businesses because I just figured it out back then and no one knew anything about it. And I was like, maybe I could do this. So after 3 years of like struggling fitness coach and remembering like, hey, I like wine. Maybe I'm not the best fitness coach as a career, lifelong career goal. And so I started kind of an accidental agency. And then I was like, wait a second. It was kind of behind the scenes. I never had a website with what I was doing. It was all word of mouth. It was like, okay, I was making money at this. And then I was like, people were asking me how I built my brand, how I built a following on social media. And because I had been posting 2 to 3 times a day for 3 years as a broke fitness coach, people saw me as like a social media expert, as a personal brand expert. And so then I decided, okay, I'm going to go all in with this. I told my husband, I said, I'm hiring a mentor. When you're making $3 grand a month and you spend $1,000 on investing in education, a course, a mentor, being a part of a mastermind where you can be in a room with people who are doing what you want to do. Nobody knew about that in Louisville. It was like, what the hell is this girl doing on social media? And so I went all in and made a goal for my first month. This was 2017. I'm going to say October 2017 when I made the decision. bought the domain, the Slay Coach. And then by November of 2017, I'd hit my first 10K month, and I never made less than that since. And so I was like, I'm going to go all in. I went from making a few $1,000s a month for years to like FU money really quickly. And I was like, oh, I grew way too fast. And so I didn't have the systems, the structure, to keep up with that. And so I was just throwing money at problems, throwing people at problems. So I did not know how to grow or scale a business that was growing that quickly. And so I just took on a ton of clients, made a ton of mistakes, made some messy action. And I said, okay, I can't take on any more clients. This is too much for me. I'm going to launch a course. And then by March of 2018, I had launched my first course, made $30K in that first launch. And by the first year, I had made 250,000+ in revenue. Now, I didn't keep all that. People here, I don't like when people just throw money numbers out there without context of like, there was a lot of expense when you're growing a team that you don't have the proper systems in place and you're just throwing people at problems. But I said, okay, I've got to figure the system thing out. I've got to launch a course that's more sustainable. So that was kind of like my beta tester thing. And then I had said next year I'm hitting 7 figures. And so when this was 2018, I was like, I'm going to have a 7-figure year. 2019 is going to be my 7-figure year. And I invested in a publicist. I went really hard on a podcast. I had hundreds of thousands of downloads on that. And I was like, I'm going to do a women's empowerment conference because I had gone to one. It changed my life. And I was like, I could do this. Why don't we have anything like this in the Midwest? Why don't we have anybody doing anything cool like this in Louisville? So all my mentors and friends were out in LA, New York, Miami, and I was flying out all the time. And I said, why don't I bring something like that here? And so we hosted and we planned for Summit of Slay. In August of 2019, we got Kajabi as our big tiered sponsor to come out and speak and do a presentation. And we had in Louisville, Kentucky, over 300 women from almost every continent on this planet fly from all over the world to come to Louisville. We had some best-selling authors, speakers, New York Times bestsellers come speak. And it was drag queens and glitter and tattoos. And I said, let's do it different. Let's do self-help, but not corny, not cheesy. Let's do business development, but like with drag queens. Sounds cool. And so I did that in 2019. And then after I had launched that big event, I hit my first 7-figure year. And then the rest is history. Kind of pulled back on the agency side. Then COVID hit and it was, 100K months, just traveling, hiring. And then when COVID hit, I was like, okay, let's slow down a little bit. And then I balanced out my revenue with kind of the agency side and the course side and pulled a lot of the events back because obviously in COVID, we couldn't have our events and just focus more on the agency and being a mom. And so I've been all over the world, spoken all over the world. I still do a few keynotes a year, but right now I've been really focused on our Louisville community and growing the knowledge base and the community that we have here with small businesses, understanding the power of personal branding and social media. So yeah, I've been coaching volleyball and a mom and focused on Louisville because I think it's cool. Everybody in LA asked, why don't you come out here? We looked at houses in San Diego and LA and I was like, I like it here. I'm born and raised and I'm really proud to be from Louisville. So
yeah. So you did a lot over those years, like a lot. The one thing that I can really resonate with is that when it comes to scaling fast and not having those systems, you literally lose your mind.
Yeah.
Because I went from like 10K a month to 70K a month in a month.
Yeah.
So 30 days. And
That's
I was like,
nuts.
oh my gosh, how am I going to fulfill all the clients?
Right.
Because I'm the type of guy, like I sell first.
Yeah.
Like I'm a salesperson and I love it.
Yep.
Like
Same.
I get a rush out of just having someone say yes to something. And in my head, I know I can do it myself. Because I'm just super energetic. Not everyone else shares that same energy.
Right.
How did you go about, finding team members that can support a huge vision or all this energy and all this new influx of leads?
Yeah. Thank God I have a genius analytical type A process-based husband who was willing to leave his entire career behind to get behind mine. And so we retired. I mean, he quit his very corporate based, climbing the ladder, successful consulting gig at a corporate job to come run my business. And so that was when we were able to go from, okay, we did a few 100K in a year to 7 figures. And so bringing on that, your number one, I think is the most important when you're hiring is bring on that point person that gets you, that understands how you work, but balances you where you're weak. And so my husband is, I'm a people mover. I'm a people person. I'm an ideas person. I'm a creative. I'm a salesperson. I love speaking. I love getting to know people. I love telling stories. My husband is the process, systems, documentation, SOPs person. And so I just felt so grateful to happen to be married to the perfect balance of who I needed to run my company. And he was really, I say your number one hire should be a really good project manager or a COO that really, if you're an ideas person or a salesperson, that really balances out where you're weak. And so that's my most important advice, is make sure that your right hand, your number one, is all the things that you are not.
That's funny. I did the exact same thing because I had my girlfriend who was working as like an MA for her full-time job. And I was like, hey, I could pay you your salary now, like, and more if you want to work for me. Yeah. And I did the exact, because she's that analytical, always like SOPs, deliverables. And I'm not sure if you're like this, but I kind of hate the word deliverables.
Yeah.
I'm more of an outcomes person.
Yeah.
I don't care how we get there, but I'm going to get you the thing.
Exactly.
So like every client that I've had, I've never really had deliverables.
Yeah.
But then my team loses their mind because they're like, what do we do? And I'm like, you do the result.
And my attorney, what was the deliverables of the contract?
Exactly. And there's the whole back and forth. And, you know, one thing that is really, I'm really glad I did, is that I worked inside of med spas. So I was selling hundreds of memberships, anywhere from like $500 to like $1,000 a month. So I got really used to being like, oh, I'm kind of like already in this range of selling membership bases.
Yeah.
Just refund clients. Yeah. People are hell on earth.
Yeah.
And they will complain.
Yeah. It's not worth your energy. Draining.
Just give them back the $1,000. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you went from 10K a month. What got you from that 10K to that, you know, that 100K plus a month?
Leverage. I mean, if you think about what I was leveraging was my knowledge. And this is back, not everyone had a course back then. This is the, you know, the early ages of the stone ages of online education. And I have always been like the Gary V advocate of alternative education. So when I was an AP student in high school, I was an athlete. I was always on the honor roll. And then when I was 16, I said, well, once I had my spine fused and I couldn't play basketball. So I knew I wasn't going to play for Pat Summitt at Tennessee. I wasn't going to be in WNBA anymore. My spine was, you know, rebuilt. And I was like, okay, now what? My whole vision of my life, since my dad was a high school basketball coach. And so like my whole life was that identity. And I was like, okay, well, I was only getting good grades so I could go to college. And at 16, I was very certain by the time I was a sophomore in high school that I would not be going to college for any reason whatsoever, unless there was some random career idea that popped up. But there was nothing that I could see myself going to school for that I wanted to pursue as a career. I knew I wanted to be a business owner then. And so I thought it would be owning my own hair salon, beauty school dropout, hence the purple hair. But I thought that would be the path. And so when I started doing the consulting and, you know, you get maxed out on time, you have all these deliverables and all these client expectations that you need to meet. And I was overloaded with clients, like, and they were all needing me to essentially create documentation and education knowledge for them to learn when we're not meeting. And so I had to create courses for my clients. And so I was leveraging my knowledge, putting it in a database where they could come consume everything that I was giving them. And I was just giving it to all of them at once. I'm like, well, this is easy. I'm going to sell this. I was already doing it. And I said, okay, how can I get this knowledge into the hands of people who can't afford a business coach or a consultant or even to go to college? Like we did like affordable in-house financing options. We were like super low income friendly. We were trying to help anyone regardless of their ability to pay. We were putting them on 2-year payment terms for, you know, $500 things. And so I was just trying to make sure that people like me knew that there was another way to learn how to grow a career and a profession, because where was the alternative? I still feel like schools aren't doing this well. Like I guess UK has created an AI degree now. They're one of the first colleges to do that. But there's nothing that a professor that could teach you about how to build a social media business back then that they could never do it as fast as I could, or they could never teach it as well as I could because they'd never had experience in it. So there wasn't a course in how to be a social media manager back then at U of L. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to teach this. Here's how to start your online business. So so leveraging knowledge.
That's huge. I mean, leverage is literally everything. And at the end of the day, it's just like, it's always funny for me making the transition from like consultant slash, I have like a $3,000 a month retainer. So like, okay, now we're at like, 25 is like, you lose access to me directly.
Yeah.
And it's trying to get people like, hey, you're not talking to me anymore. You're actually going to talk to this person.
Yeah.
And there's like a level up ladder.
Yeah.
How'd you mitigate that? You eventually being like, hey, you can't talk to me anymore. You got to talk to someone else. Like you could, but it needs to go up a ladder.
I trained mini-me's. And so we had in our signature program, the Slay School. So we had over 350 students, and this was at a $3,000 to $4,000 price point. And so I had co-coaches, and I had a head coach that was head of curriculum and development. And then I had junior coaches under them that would kind of work their way up to that. And we also had a salesperson that was also a coach in the program. So the person that they were speaking to on the sales call was also involved in the program, so they didn't feel disconnected or felt like, oh, I've been handed off to someone else. It really felt like, oh, the person I'm talking to is also going to be the person that's holding my hand throughout this process. So I was still very involved weekly. I'm in the Slack channel where I can answer all the students' questions. But I made sure that my best students I spotted them and said, hey, I want you to coach in this program. I found people that are values aligned. I think the most important part when you're duplicating yourself in any company, when you're hiring or when you're trying to raise your own personal price point, but also give a good, nice service to people that are paying you a decent amount of money, was making sure that the people that are representing your brand and your business share your same values. And so we teach the very first module inside of Slay School, and what all my students learn is, what are your top 5 values? And running a values-based business and making sure that all of your decisions that you make as a company, from hiring, from posting on social media, from firing, from launching a new service or a product or offer, are they all aligned with every single one of your values? Because if they're not, if something's out of alignment, it won't work. So if you say, oh, well, this person matches 4 out of 5 of the values, they don't have that one value, but they have to be aligned with all of your values, or it's not going to be a good long-term fit. So I just found people in my programs that I knew shared the same values, that wanted an opportunity to learn from me deeper. And so they got to learn from me and grow their businesses and brands. And they also got to represent me, and they knew my brain in and out. And so, yeah, just duplicated myself.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, I remember when I first started working with my business coach now, and he was like, it's going to be, what was it? I think it's like $12,000 for like 6 months or something. Yeah. And I was like, that's a lot. Yeah. I never spent that much on coaching before. I was like, okay, let's figure this out. And then I started working with him, and that's one thing we talked about is that, and he always likes to remind me, it's like, hey, this one conversation is going to save you thousands of dollars. And it's funny too, because I look at my revenue. It's like when I started working with him 2 months later, then it went like this. And I was like, okay, I can attribute something to you. It was worth the investment. But he made me realize like things that I value. And it's like, I value speed. I don't value, doesn't mean perfect, just good enough to move on.
Yeah.
And then I value respect. And it's like, those are the 3 things. Like, people got to work really fast.
Yeah.
They got to just put a lot of stuff out.
Yeah.
And they got to be like decent human beings.
Yeah.
And realizing that has helped me make better decisions with that. I think I'm definitely still working on finding people that fit all of the values.
Yeah.
Because it's
a process.
And also, I feel like it's for younger generations, and I'm not even that old yet, but
you're an old soul.
Old soul.
Yeah.
It's hard to get people to be like, hey, I'm going to work 7 days a week for 12 hours a day every day.
Yeah. Especially when it's not their company.
Especially when it's not their company. Yeah. And if someone's going to do that, they're like, oh yeah, I want $200,000 a year. And I'm like, okay, well, first off, we're building.
Yeah.
And then second off, like, if you saw a vision, you'd get it.
Yeah.
And you're still getting a salary better than what you're getting making right now. So
I think there's a lost art in, and I say everyone should find a mentor, and not in our industry, not in any specific industry. Everyone needs a mentor, and you can either pay for that, or you can, like remember what apprenticeships were, where you would work under someone for nothing or low income or free. Like, I have people asking to be my fall, spring interns from, local universities all the time, because they want to learn people that are doing things that they want to be doing. And so you really have to find a team member that's ambitious for their own personal self, but understands that they need to go through a period of Mr. Miyagi, please teach me your ways. Like Danielson, wax on, wax off, where they are there to put in work. And what they're going to get in exchange for that is going to be a value worth of knowledge and experience that you could not pay for at a university or any other institutional type education. The value of mentorship and how it will accelerate your own personal and business growth, I feel like that's being missed a lot. And I think it's a messaging part on a lot of online experts or educators. They're forgetting to tell stories about how apprenticeships used to be run. Like, what did a blacksmith do? You know, you worked for low income or, you know, free until you eventually took over the blacksmith later when you were older in life. And so I think that generation we could do a better job at telling stories about what their future could look like.
Yeah. And it's one aspect I didn't think about is that your employees should make you make more money.
Yeah.
Like,
they should pay for themselves.
They should pay for themselves.
Times 1.5 minimum.
Yeah. And I
so
think about that.
Hiring,
I was like, which was a really interesting discussion to be like, oh, okay, like I'm making an investment here.
Yeah.
Like this is ROI.
Yeah.
And if I'm not getting my ROI, that's why.
Yeah.
And that's something I've worked on with my hiring process now is like, okay, what is my ROI? Do I have a clear understanding of it? And if it's not there, why isn't it there? Can I fix it? Or are they just not capable of doing the thing?
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. 'Cause a lot of business owners, like one of the Restore locations that I worked in it internally. The ROI was they made an extra $50,000 a year or a month. Actually, it was, huge ROI.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, this is the change that your business doesn't have because you have 4 store locations. If you had one of me in every location, you'd be up,
exactly.
200,000 a month.
Yeah.
And what do you not have that? Because you just haven't put enough time into hiring. And
yeah.
I'll do what I can do, but you still own the business and you got to do your thing.
Yeah.
So and that's the A player game. Where have you found your A players outside of marriage?
Outside of marriage, outside of being married, I met him at the gym. Outside of marriage, my A players within my team were my highest performing students. My highest performing students that knew what they wanted to learn, but didn't know what they wanted to do yet. And so if you have someone that comes into your organization that has, I want to be here by next year. I'm so ambitious that I know exactly what I want to build, what I want to create. I just don't know how to do it yet. A lot of times they're my B+ players that become my best long-term team members. It's because your A+ players want to come in, take everything they can learn from you as quick as possible, and then go build and duplicate it or build in something 6 months later because they're you don't want someone like you.
Yeah, because you want to buy the business.
Yeah, you don't want someone like you. You want your B+ players to be the ones that want to stay around with the company long term and maybe also eventually start something later one day, but you want them to be there for the duration of the growth. You want to give them equity or ownership or part. You want them to be a part of something. So when someone has such a super strong vision of what they want to build, I know I want to do this by this age. It's the people that are really type A or doesn't even have to be type A. They're just hard workers, achievers, or they identify as achievers. I always say athletes, hire athletes that are former athletes. Doesn't have to be college athletes, just high school. Anyone that competed competitively has a certain type of internal intrinsic motivation. And when I hired who I thought was going to be my A+ players, they ended up being the ones that were like, I'm going to start my own thing, which is great. And blessings, like super excited for them. But the turnover rate of, they did such a good job in 6 months, or they were here with me for a year and now they're off building their own thing, which I'm celebrating. But if I want to build a company with someone, you need to look at your friend group or your network of people of who is someone that is hardworking, ambitious, but maybe doesn't have a clear direction of exactly what they want yet. Because if someone's like, I know I want to be something, but I don't know what that is yet, they can find themselves in your organization and learn from you while they're trying to figure it out. And they usually end up staying longer.
No, that's a good idea of identifying a B+ player. One thing that kind of sparked my thought based off of that is I'm kind of in a place now of like, I kind of just want to merge with other agencies that are smaller, find the guys who are at like 10, 20 a month and be like, hey, how can we work together? Because I'm at 70. So how do I get you to where I'm at?
Yeah.
And then we kind of just all raise. Have you gone through any mergers or know what that looks like?
I had a startup that was like an idea collaboration joint venture that ended up going through venture investor meetings with Butler University, wanted to buy us. And that was a whole thing I won't get into, but it was my former lawyer attorney that had a lot of personal life issues, and we had a multi 7-figure evaluation in 6 months. I mean, like third round of investor meetings, pro formas, here, this, that. And it would have been great. It was an education company, but that didn't work out. And so what I would say as far as joint ventures, now I'm just really careful I take the time to really get to know the person before I propose a partnership. I want to make sure like the values are aligned. And also I want to partner, when you look at partnerships, really looking at who balances, kind of like what you look at with your COO or your right hand, is who is going to be strong where I'm weak, who has the experience that I don't have. And I really love the idea of like mergers or agencies. I've dabbled with the idea of like my another designer friend. We've had conversations about let's talk about that. And I think you just have to be really intentional and really thought out. And when I'm like you, I'm like a fast mover, make messy action, take decisions, but I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in joint venture, if not $1 million at this point, in partnerships that I was like, take action, do it messy. And so it really has to be someone that balances you out and has experience where you don't, or knowledge, or bring something to the table that you're not bringing to the table. And also someone who shares your values, and also someone who isn't afraid to have healthy conflict conversations. Someone who's conflict avoidant isn't going to make a good partner. Someone who is a good communicator and maybe isn't super emotional is always going to make a good partner. So I love the idea of, I have not found a person like that, but I've been open to it. I know my friend Jen over at Neat Agency, she's buying up smaller people. She has one of my students as her COO, and God love her. She's done amazing things. She used to come to our events and stuff. And yeah, I think it just really has to be kind of like a marriage. Like when you're dating someone, you got to date and you got to get to know them. You don't want to get married after 6 weeks of, knowing someone. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I've definitely been,
I love it.
I heard a phrase someone else that I love now is like bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
I'm a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
I don't do great with like super minuscule things. Cause I think I've had like maybe 6 or 7 failed businesses before I've had this where like this kind of like really taking off now. And, my last business that I had that, we were doing $500,000 a year revenue. We had $500,000 in inventory, like still big, and it's still around. I walked away from it though. Not a single penny. And people still don't know how I did it. Cause I'm like, I hated the person so much.
Yeah.
It's fine. There's different personalities, but I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, I just need to leave. And I've done everything on my own now, but then met Jason. Jason like renewed my love for partnerships. I'm like,
awesome.
It can work. And maybe
it can. Yeah. With the right partner and the right person. Yeah. I've done several. I've had like, what I really like is, I've done a few like long-term partnerships that are kind of like joint venture where there's not an ownership, just, I'm going to take the sales portion of your company and here's the cut that I'll get. And so I've had clients that weren't necessarily marketing agency where I was running their sales and operations, and that's always been fun and usually tends to work out great. But when you find a good partner, it I think is the best of both worlds. I think everyone, if especially when you are the owner, the CEO, if everyone could just swallow their ego and pride and say, I don't need to always be the one on top, or I don't need to always be the one that's right. I think the smartest people in the world, or the best entrepreneurs and business owners, are the ones that are willing to admit where they are not strong. They're willing to admit what they can't do well and say, hey, I know you can do this well, and I'm going to take a back seat on this one and let you take the reins on this side of the business, even though I'm a control freak and want to do all the things and, messy and do it and work till 12 a.m. And
well, it's almost like because I don't care about what anyone does as long as results are happening.
Yeah.
And normally I know that they haven't done the research that I've done. I'm like, I don't think you've watched 300 hours of YouTube videos about Instagram.
Right.
So I just don't trust you.
Yeah.
Now if someone's like, no, here's why. I'm like, this is the research. And I'm like, great. If I'm wrong, who cares?
Yeah.
Like the client's happier.
Yeah.
But a lot of times clients want stuff. It's not good stuff and it's wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm like, fine, you want it.
Whatever they want. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm happy.
You want to be posted on your personal Facebook profile every day manually? Whatever.
Sure. Whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Whatever you want to do. We'll make it happen. But no, I'm super interested because I've done the Rev-share split thing too recently and it's been killing. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I've even had a conversation with clients where I'm like, hey, it's going to be, $3,000, $5,000 a month for me to execute the plan that I want to execute.
Yeah.
Or you just give me half of the revenue generated from the leads I bring in.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I don't know. It's like, I'm definitely gonna pay you more on the revenue side. I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm asking for the retainer.
Exactly.
I'm like, and I don't care either way.
Yeah.
I just know I could blow your business up.
Yeah.
And I'm finding a place now where I find businesses that have no marketing at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, you have a good product. Let me blow this up for you.
Yeah. That's super fun.
You can't afford the marketing. Because I really love the build. I like the journey up.
Yeah.
People are there. I'm like, okay, it's not as fun anymore. But the rise is where it gets really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the build. I think that's why I do what I do is I love the creation side and the creative outlet of helping people grow. And also especially when they're new and something clicks or they get that first really big result, it's like, I don't know, you just feel like, oh, I did good in the world.
Yeah.
Like I helped a small business like do some really cool things. So.
And it's that little validation too.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely get a big kick out of the client. I've had clients just pay me more money because I'm doing such a good job. Yeah. Which is wild because if you talk to a lot of business people, they're like, they just never had that.
Yeah.
And it's because I talked to another financial advisor in here. We had a good conversation yesterday, but he was like, dude, I'm always on my phone. Like if a client calls me and I'm like on vacation, I step out and I say, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I get really angsty if I'm on vacation and I can't do any work. So I'm like, what am I going to do?
Do it while you're young. Like I had that phase of where I was always on, always sprinting, always going. And, I will say this advice to the younger generation, while you're young, before you are married or before you have kids, like retire yourself by the time you're 40. Mm-hmm. I'm not at like a retirement stage of life financially, but I'm at a place where I can really be present with my kids and I can be in a season. And it's so hard for me to pull myself back because I am such a workhorse and like I'm so passionate about what I do, but I have to every day, I have to journal it. Like I have to literally sit, you are a present mother. You are a present mother. You are there for your kids. You want to see your kids grow up. You can always scale your business larger when they're gone. You can, because like I know how easy it is for me to scale and build businesses. I've done it multiple times. I've done it for hundreds of clients and students. It's like as easy as walking for me, but I know that I cannot get the time back that I have now in my life. So every client and student of mine that is either not a parent yet or is under the age of 30, I'm like, run while you have the energy, the youth, the excitement, lean into it. Don't get married in joint ventures with people that you don't know well very quickly. Like there are some things that you should pace yourself on, but run, take action, start 12 businesses and figure out which one is going to be the one that works the best. Because now because of what I did, because I sprinted for because I didn't stop posting on social media for 3 years, I was able to grow my second business or third business very, very quickly because all I did was post for years without a lot of monetary exchange. And then that momentum that I did from 2017 to 2020, where I didn't stop. I had 6,000 students in less than 3 years. I was in Forbes, Business Insider, Success Magazine, all the things that I wanted, checked not a single thing on my goals list wasn't hit. When I hit 7 figures, when I do this, every single goal, I was like, okay, well, I didn't even know I ran out of goals to set. I was like, well, I guess I could write a book. I'm like, what else is there? Well, do I just need to set a goal for more podcast downloads? And then my oldest went to high school and I was like, fuck, sorry. I'm missing it. I am missing all of it. And so, but because of the work that I put in for those 3 years, because I just grinded for like 3 years of showing up consistently on social, building a large email list, building a large following. I'm now able to not advertise anything that I do. And I have a wait list of people that want to work with me because of what I did then. So like what you're doing now is going to set you up so much long-term in your brand equity, in your business and how people remember you that you'll never have to work again in your life if you keep pushing when you're in this season of life.
Yeah. It's always funny there's a lagnancy on the momentum too. Like I'd say like this, if you're running at the edge of a cliff and you stop, you're going to fall over.
Yeah.
So right now, know what I'm doing. Like when I was in the film industry, I ran.
Yeah.
So I still get calls today to work on sets all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can tell that I was running. Yeah. The fitness industry, I still get DMs every single day about how to take peptides and do certain things. So I know now I'm in my running phase of business, which is funny because as you know, branding, if you yell all the time about a certain thing, people just affiliate you with that thing.
Yep.
So I saw a lot of people think, oh, you're a fitness coach. I'm like, I never did fitness coaching, guys. It's just my branding.
People send me purple things all the time. Like,
Yeah,
you're a purple girl.
You're like, it's so much more. It's
Yeah,
just,
I'm more than just a purple person. Thank you.
yeah, there's more to it. Well, okay, so where do you see yourself going? Like, what is outside of like present mother, business wise? What is life for you right now, business wise?
Yeah, I'm really in the what I call my 2026. What is the next year? I'm like, I can't even keep track of years. 2026 planning season right now. Relaunching the podcast in 2026. My season right now is giving. I'm in a season of I'm building for legacy and not monetization, not financial goals. I want to be remembered when I die as someone who helped a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that everyone that has an idea feels brave enough to take the chance on that idea. I want to make sure that every young girl who thinks that because of where they grew up or what high school they went to or what affiliations that they have or whether they were a young mom or this or that, or they grew up low income or whatever, I want to make sure that they know that their dreams, no matter what part of town they're from, what city they're from, are possible. Mm-hmm. And so I tell my stories the way that I do because I was a beauty school dropout who got knocked up at 19, whose mom built trucks and cussed like a sailor and was from Southwest Louisville. And I make the joke that I live in the privileged neighborhood that I live in now. And I brought the hood to the housewives. And I want everyone that has ambition to know that they only are limited as far as they will allow themselves to believe in what is possible. So if you do not allow yourself to believe that I could hit XYZ, then you will never hit it. If you allow yourself to believe that you could be whatever, and I use this in a sports analogy. If you're 5'6" and you want to be a hitter on the front line and everybody else is 6 foot tall, okay, you can get there. Is it going to be harder for you because of where you came from or because of how short you are or because of whatever? Yes, it will be harder for you, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. So your journey might not always look like everyone else's journey because you didn't come from a privileged background or because you're not tall if you're an athlete. It doesn't mean you can't get there. It just means that your path to getting there looks a little bit different. So you have to fall in love with the process of your path, not anyone else's. Absolutely.
Well, I think that's a good stopping point for us, but I think there were some real nuggets today.
Yeah,
nuggets
I
of
had
growth,
a lot of fun.
Nuggets of value. Where can people follow you?
You can follow me at Jamie Jocelyn King, JamieJoslin on Instagram and The Slay Coach on TikTok.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was awesome.